I'm Angela.
And I'm Paige.
Join us as we dive into our obsession with true crime, history, and mysterious stories. We'll explore the intricate details of the corrupt, the cruel, and the calculating.
We assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this episode. The Corrupt Podcast is based on the facts and our opinions of the case. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Corrupt Podcast.
In 2002, Thad Roberts and 3 accomplices arranged a heist to steal moon rocks from NASA's Johnson Space Center. The stolen lunar material had been collected from every Apollo mission from 1969 to 1972 and was considered a national treasure until it fell into the hands of these 4 conspirators. It's episode 50. We made it.
Yeah, we did.
We're still rolling, and now we've got a moon heist.
It's a very interesting concept, if you think about it.
If you listen to this episode and you're not shaking your head thinking, what a dumbass, by the end, then we have failed.
I feel bad, though, because everyone thinks he's a dumbass, right?
Because he is. He's actually so smart, though. It's one of those things where you're so smart, you're just missing something crucial.
Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. That's probably why I feel bad for him.
I do not feel bad for him.
I don't necessarily feel bad for him, but I feel bad that nobody needs name calling, right?
Oh, geez.
You know, like Fiona.
Oh, no.
Should we talk about this?
Yeah.
I feel like we should talk about this.
Are we going to talk about this? There's nothing compelling about this podcast.
Guys, we've been getting a lot of hate lately. We've been getting the heat. The heat is rolling in, and it's rolling in hot. We need you guys out there to be patient with us.
Leave us a nice comment. I don't care if it's like what color socks you're wearing. Tell me about your green polka dot socks. That sounds phenomenal. What you had for dinner last night. Any random fact about yourself. PG. Keep it PG. I don't want to know any weird things. Something random.
Yeah. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. But it is freedom of speech. I get it. Like, people are out there. They can say whatever they want about how we look or how we sound, or if we're not compelling enough, or if you look like Shrek's wife. It's fine. At the end of the day, it's okay. We'll move on.
Just know that we're going to make t-shirts with your weird ass sayings.
I love this idea.
It's like the best marketing. However, we would really love nice things. Tell me that you had mashed potatoes for dinner. That sounds great. I'll get a good laugh out of it.
So relatable. Mashed potatoes.
Okay, so I take back my name calling about Thaddeus here.
Yeah, we went right into that wormhole there.
We really did. But he is so smart and yet so dumb. He missed the common sense. He had so much available to him, and it kind of ruined it.
I will agree with that.
Thank you to everyone that has supported us this year. We do have 6 more episodes dropping this month for you. 5 episodes for Corrupted Christmas, plus our That's a Wrap 2025 episodes. Now, That's a Wrap will be a little bit different. It'll be in 2 parts. So Patreon Corrupt crew members get extended bonus content. It's your chance to hear about our favorite moments from the year, what we learned in our first year of podcasting, and of course, a blooper reel.
You can join the Corrupt crew at patreon.com/corruptpodcast. You can also support us with a one-time PayPal boost. Both links are in the episode notes.
Thad Roberts was born into a strict Mormon family in 1977. Growing up outside of Syracuse, Utah, Thad was one of 7 children. As a freshman in high school in 1994, Thad met Katie Wilson. Thad was forbidden by his father to have a girlfriend. So for the next 3 years, Katie and Thad pretended to date within a group of friends to keep appearances that they weren't in a serious relationship. Things were getting serious, though. And immediately after having premarital sex, Thad and Katie began to stress about their families finding out.
In the Mormon faith, 19-year-old boys are sent on a 2-year mission trip, which added even more pressure on Thad and Katie. Pretty quickly after arriving on the trip, Thad spilled the beans about having sex to the mission president, hoping to gain forgiveness for the sin. Unfortunately, Thad didn't get anything other than kicked off of the mission program and disowned by his own family. After being forced to return home, his parents gave him 2 months to get a job and get out. In the meantime, he would sleep in the basement, not speak or make eye contact with any of his siblings, and be out of the house from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, so he wouldn't influence his siblings into his sinful ways.
When the 2 months were up, Thad moved out and married Katie in 1996. Both Katie and Thad had left the Mormon religion. Thad's parents drove to see the vows and then immediately left the wedding. It was February 1997 when Thad randomly decided he should become an astronaut. At 20 years old, Thad and Katie were drowning. They were renting a 1-bedroom apartment, and Thad had been dabbling in University of Utah classes for a year without a plan. They were both working, Katie as a full-time dental assistant, plus she was working nights as a model, and Thad was working in construction.
After walking through the Career Center and pulling 3 ring binders with potential jobs, Thad finally found one that had potential: astronaut. Katie was incredibly supportive, and they embarked on a 2-year journey to get Thad on the fast track to NASA. Thad took on undergraduate programs with a triple major of physics, geophysics, and geology at the University of Utah. To fill out his resume, Thad founded the Utah Astronomical Society, obtained his pilot license, volunteered on dinosaur digs, became a scuba diver, and learned both Russian and Japanese.
He's an incredibly smart guy.
Yeah, for sure.
He went the full way, learns Russian, Japanese, gets the pilot license. Like, he shot literally for the moon here. He buckled down. It's a pun. I had a moon pun, right?
I know what a pun is.
I never have the jokes. I actually had a pun.
I just thought it was pretty funny. Good job, Paige.
Well, thank you. While volunteering at the Utah Museum of History, Thad was bringing home dinosaur bones and fossils. He told Katie that the fossils had been given to him. They were displayed at his apartment, and he even showed them off during parties. On a side note, can't say I've heard of many museums just giving away their fossils, though.
No.
Thad and Katie also bicycled over 700 miles from Salt Lake City to San Francisco, raising $10,000 for cystic fibrosis. All of this looked great on his application to NASA's Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center.
The Johnson Space Center, or JSC, was founded in 1961 and handles both mission control and astronaut training programs. Thad had his eye on the internship program at the Houston, Texas 1,600-acre campus of JSC in the summer of 2000. He was determined to be the first man to walk on Mars, and he was headed, at least for a moment, in the right direction.
In May 2000, Thad received the call that he had been waiting for. He was accepted into the Elite Pathways internship at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Thad would spend a semester every year at JSC, then continue a regular semester back at home at the University of Utah. Katie would stay at Utah, splitting up their relationship for months at a time. This internship would run for 4 years and provide Thad with the opportunity to be assigned a mentor, run NASA experiments, and get trained with professionals in the field.
Thad drove almost 1,500 miles across the country from Utah to Texas in September 2000. Thad was quiet and reserved in Utah, but moving cross-country had given him the opportunity to reinvent himself. He made friends quickly, and his background and age made him stand apart from the rest of the interns. Most of the interns were coming from military or engineering backgrounds, but Thad was a 23-year-old married man from Utah. Thad had also spent quite a bit of time outdoors, where the other interns had not. He became very popular for arranging weekend adventures like skydiving and scuba diving.
Distance didn't help the young marriage, and they wouldn't make it far into the first semester before cracks started to form. Thad had issues reconciling his Utah life and his personality with his Texas life. In one, he was training in a world-renowned program, and the other, he was just a regular student. Before heading to his second internship at JSC, Thad confessed to Katie that he had met another woman and was in love with her. Katie, who was a model, was told that she needed to change by losing weight and get her own hobbies. Thad then moved out of their apartment, but within a couple of months, he recognized that he had made a mistake. In the meantime, Katie had joined a college and a gym, but when Thad begged Katie to take him back, she agreed.
During Thad's third semester at JSC, Katie flew down to Houston for a visit. She attended a lecture and visited the lab where Thad was working. It was on Katie's trip to JSC that Thad came up with an idea to steal from NASA. After the lecture, Thad and Katie ran into Dr. Everett Gibson. Everett was a senior and an Apollo expert of planetary science and astrobiology. He specialized in extraterrestrial materials like moon rocks and meteorites.
Everett was just heading to lunch, so he invited Thad and Katie for Chinese food, then back to his lab located in Building 31 to look at moon rocks. At the lab, the first door was already open and unlocked, probably because it was during the day and a student was working in Everett's lab. Everett asked Thad and Katie to wait outside the door while he accessed a massive 600-pound safe in the back of the room. From the doorway, Thad saw Everett pull down a piece of paper that was taped to the top of the safe, which Everett then used the combination to open the safe. Everett then began pulling out moon rocks and meteorites. Everett explained that he requested the moon rock samples through a strict process for his research, and once he retired, the samples would be returned to the lunar lab.
The schedules at JSC were very fluid, so it was acceptable for Thad to leave his duties and join a lunar lab scientist when she asked for inventory help. This was a big deal for Thad because the lunar lab was locked up, only accessible to certain personnel, and the building itself was built to withstand a Category 5 hurricane without water damage. Thad had to put on a white bodysuit, gloves, and cover all body hair before entering the lab. I don't know why that part gets me. He has to cover his body hair.
No eyebrows to be seen.
Once in the lab, Thad, a group of other interns and scientists, inventoried 110,000 samples of moon rocks, totaling 842 pounds.
Thad learned that the samples, like Dr. Everett Gibson's, would basically be considered trash when they were returned to the lab. The returned samples were kept, but separated from the non-contaminated rocks. If the returned samples were just 2% of the total inventory in the lunar lab, this meant there were 17 pounds of moon rocks considered trash at the lab at that time. Thad had also attended a lecture by Everett about a person who had tried to sell a moon rock. The person had stolen the rock and tried to sell it for $5 million a gram. We're talking about pounds of discarded moon rocks at the lunar lab. That 17 pounds would be 7,071 grams, and at $5 million per gram, that's $38 billion of what JSC considered trash. Thad was seeing dollar signs and an opportunity as he left the lunar lab.
I mean, that's enough to get the United States out of debt.
Pretty much. It's a solid start.
Let's just start selling moon rocks. I mean, legally. There's my advice again. Going off the rails.
Security has been tightened up since Thad came through. So Don't think that you can go into JSC and steal moon rocks today. You'll make it even less far than Thad did. I will say that for him.
When Thad was back to Utah for that semester, he met another student, Gordon McWhorter. The guys hit it off and started spending more time together. Gordon had a prior criminal record and always had weed on him, so it seemed to Thad that Gordon might have some connections to the dark underworld of the internet in 2002. It wasn't long before Thad presented the idea of selling moon rocks to Gordon. Gordon didn't even believe in the moon landing, telling Thad that it was clearly all a hoax. Gordon also didn't know Thad spent a semester every year at NASA, but he agreed to search around the internet to see if he could find a buyer if Thad knew someone with moon rocks to sell. Thad offered to pay $10,000 if Gordon could set him up with a buyer, and Gordon agreed.
It was less than 2 weeks later when Thad received a cryptic email from Gordon with addresses of potential buyers of the moon rocks. Gordon had emailed a wide array of people using a fake name and email address, and 7 potential buyers had responded with interest. Thad created a new email address and took on a fake name himself, Orb Robinson, to create an advertisement for the moon rocks. Later, NASA would track the emails from multiple locations, including the University of Utah, the JSC campus, and a Houston public library. This shows that Thad and Gordon had been working on the emails and advertisements for months. Should we just call him Thaddeus Orb from now on?
I like that. Thaddeus Orb posted ads to online bulletin boards across the world.
Priceless moon rocks. There's so many exclamation points here. Priceless moon rocks now available, 3 exclamation points. If you have interest in purchasing a rare and historically significant piece of the moon and would like more information, then please contact me by email and leave your contact information and an explanation of your interests. Sincerely, Orb.
The contact information was Orb Robinson, and his email was orb_Robinson@hotmail.com. This is how Belgium mineral collector Axel Emmerman received an email from Orb Robinson.
Greetings. My name is Orb Robinson from Tampa, Florida. I have in my possession a rare, multi-carat moon rock I'm trying to find a buyer for. The laws surrounding this type of exchange are known, so I'll be straightforward and nonchalant about wanting to find a private buyer. If you or someone you know would be interested in such an exchange, please let me know. Thank you.
Axel did very little research on Orb Robinson, but instead of finding this as a hoax, he found tons of bulletins all over Europe's mineral websites with the ad to match the email he had received. Axel was a member of a mineral club. At their next meeting, he discovered that many people in the club had received the same email from Orb that he had, but unlike Axel, they had deleted the email immediately and written it off as a scam.
Axel, though, was not so convinced that this was a hoax. He was pretty sure that he was actually witnessing a crime. So Axel emailed Orb back, and then he also sent an email to the Tampa, Florida division of the FBI. Thad, under the name Orb, continued emailing Axel to set up the deal. The final email that confirmed this wasn't a hoax for Axel occurred when Thad corrected the price to per kilogram instead of carats. Thad was asking around $300,000 per kilo of moon rocks, which wasn't even close to the high value of those rocks.
Axel's wife was actually very upset because if it wasn't a hoax, Axel might be putting his family into a dangerous situation. So he decided to let it go and didn't respond to Thad's email. 2 days after Axel decided to walk away from the situation, he finally received a response from the Tampa division of the FBI. The FBI agreed that it was unlikely Orb Robinson had stolen moon rocks from NASA, but it should be investigated as even the sale of misrepresented minerals as moon rocks would be illegal.
Working with the FBI, Axel fabricated a story about only having a $100,000 budget and being unable to get away from work for months. With the FBI's instruction, Axel said that his sister-in-law lived in Pennsylvania and could meet Orb to verify the moon rock was authentic and pay the $100,000 on his behalf. The FBI provided Axel with an email address for his sister-in-law, Lynn Briley, and her husband, Kurt. In this way, Thad unknowingly began emailing directly with the FBI Special Agent Lynn Billings and Nick Nance. Special Agent Lynn Billings took the wheel as Axel's sister-in-law, Lynn, who would handle the buying of the rocks on Axel's behalf.
It was June 2002, and Thad thought he had a buyer lined up. It was time to steal some moon rocks. As a support diver helping astronauts in space practice buoyancy in a 40-foot deep pool, he met and fell in love with a 26-year-old intern working in NASA's tissue culture laboratory, Tiffany Fowler. Thad and Tiffany were almost inseparable at JSC. It was almost like Katie and Thad's life in Utah didn't exist.
Thad and Tiffany had been together for just a couple of weeks when he decided it was time to share his heist plans. He started with his 19-year-old friend, Shay Sauer, first. Shay worked in the zero-gravity pollination experiment at NASA, and she had met Thad during their scuba dive exercises.
I just got to point out, that is a awesome name.
Shay Sauer?
I would love to say that. Hey, my name's Shay Sauer.
Fair enough.
Your face. You're so dumbfounded. You're like, huh?
She has an epic name.
I like it.
It's cooler than Thad. I mean,
I know what she does, and I still like it.
She's the least amount of shenanigans, at least.
Yeah.
I'm really not sure how she gets drug into this, other than she's his friend.
Well, I mean, I've seen Thad, and not like, I've just seen him online, obviously. Mm-hmm. But he's a bit of a looker. So maybe he was just, flirting with her, and maybe she thought it was going to be something more, but then it never really was. Who knows?
He starts tossing around things like $38 billion.
Or that.
Yep.
Faux show.
Got a name like Shay Sauer, and you have an internship at NASA, and then people start talking about $38 billion. Be enough to perk you up a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like she needs to flip her hair. This is 2002. I don't know if anybody was doing that back in 2002.
Especially since she's a scuba diver, right? She'll be in the water, and then she flips her hair up.
Wow. This is like every early 2000s surfer girl movie.
Yeah, she can't do it with all that, gear on, of course, but
she must have short hair. I saw a picture of her, but her hair was under the cap, so I don't know. She could have glorious hair. I don't know.
Shay Sauer, the scuba diver. Okay, I think we talked enough about her. We can move on.
We can move on from her zero-gravity pollination experiment that she's also doing.
Sorry, guys.
Having broke the news to Shay, Thad then moved on to Tiffany by saying he was going to literally give her a piece of the moon. Both Tiffany and Shay agreed to steal the moon rocks from the JSC campus.
Gru from Despicable Me would be so proud. Also, side note, Steve Carell, who voices Gru, also has a TV show on Netflix called Space Force, and it's hilarious.
I did not know that. Despicable Me stealing the moon. Even in Despicable Me, it goes so hilariously wrong.
It does.
Vector just gets, spoilers here, stuck on the moon. If you haven't seen Despicable Me by now.
He's like one of my favorite characters.
Vector?
Yeah, I love that part with the jumpsuit. The most iconic part ever. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Where it's not pajamas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the girls says I like your pajamas. And he's like, pajamas. And he starts running in the same spot. This is a warm-up suit.
As he's ordering his boxes and boxes of cookies.
Seriously, if any of you guys dress up as Vector this Halloween, send them to us because I want to see those. I love it.
This is dropping in December.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. If you dressed up as Vector this Halloween, even if it's Christmas time, send it to us. I don't care. I want to see you dressed up as Vector or Gru.
We would love that, for sure.
Moving along, Thad initiated phase 1 of the moon heist. Using Tiffany's makeup compact and a homemade mixture of powder, Thad brushed the door keypad of Building 31 with the powder, then walked deliberately outside of the view of the security cameras. This blew my mind. The powder combined with the oils on the scientist's fingers would show Thad the numbers needed to enter Building 31.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. And I know you're probably thinking, how did he put the numbers in order? We'll get to that. Stay with us. After phase 1 was complete, he reached out to Gordon to confirm if they could find anything on Lynn Briley. Gordon was able to confirm that Lynn lived and worked in Glenside, Pennsylvania, so that checked out.
Phase 2 required Thad to borrow a friend's Jeep Cherokee, claiming to help move another friend over the weekend. Instead, Thad took the Jeep straight to a shopping plaza, where he stole a license plate from a Buick and swapped it out for the Jeep plate. The Jeep was now ready. Its real owner was another NASA intern, so it had the necessary NASA sticker to access the base. It wasn't connected to Thad's name, and it had a complete stranger's license plate. Phase 3 included redecorating a cheap motel room to prepare for the moon rocks. Tiffany had found a motel, and Thad requested a room next to the ice machine on the bottom floor. Thad then placed tarps, saws, bags, and notebooks around the motel room in preparation.
This is starting to sound like a crime scene.
Are we shaking our head yet? Bottom floor beside the ice machine. And that's going to hide the sound. We're shrugging. I'm shaking my head.
So Thad, Tiffany, and Shay were ready for the heist of the century. The night of July 13th, 2002 was supposed to be their test run, but turned into a sudden heavy rainstorm that provided the perfect coverage for the security cameras. The base was basically deserted, and the security guard at the gate attempting to stay dry barely looked at Thad's ID before paging him in. Thad pulled the Jeep right up to the Building 31 dock. Another NASA intern had provided Thad with a pin combination for the dock area.
The same building dock was used for the astrophotography printer room, so many people came and went for prints, and that pin wasn't a highly kept secret. It was more like, hey, here's the pin to get in, and people came and went all the time, so that pin was really easy for Thad to get his hands on.
And that was it. Thad and Tiffany were inside Building 31.
The lab was climate controlled with thermal alarms to alert the scientists of temperature changes that could harm the moon rocks. It would also sound if the body heat of Thad or Tiffany was detected. Shay had decided to stay in the car, so Thad and Tiffany put on neoprene bodysuits, surgical masks, latex hospital caps, gloves, and booties over their shoes. Phase 1 had started with the homemade powder on the door keypad. Now Thad was able to see the 5 numbers that had been pressed, based on the oils absorbing the powder. Thad was able to read the 5 digits in the correct order to open the door, because the skin oil absorbed more on the first buttons.
So with this concept, you push harder on the first buttons, you press, and it gets lighter every time?
According to what Thad says happened here, he put that powder across all of the digits, and the first one that we touch, we're hitting it the hardest, and then it was, absorbing more of the powder.
You know I'm going to be doing this every PIN number that I push in, right? For anything.
Like, does this work on an ATM?
Right. Like ATM or like your PIN for your card number. Like, I'm going to be thinking about this every time I'm punching in numbers. I don't know about you.
It just seems so unlikely.
Unlikely to what? To push it harder the first go?
Are you telling me that not a single person looked at that keypad as they were touching it and went, ew, that looks weird?
You went a totally different way.
I did. I went germaphobe, like, ew, that keypad is covered in something funky.
Well, it was like a terrible storm out, so I'm sure people were just like wanted to stay in their dorms. Do they have dorms?
This was phase 1, though, and we don't know how long between phase 1 and where we are now. Like, was it a day? Was it 3 days?
See, I thought this whole thing was one night.
No, because he has to, powder the keypad, go borrow his friend's Jeep, go swap the plates, and then it wasn't even supposed to happen tonight. They were supposed to actually have like a party, and it got rained out. And so he was like, well, it's raining so hard.
So he powdered it before getting the Jeep?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we just walked through this and I completely skipped every damn part.
So maybe he just powdered it yesterday, but still you have a whole day worth of people being like, ew, there's something on there. And maybe that's why the first button is so hard, because they like boop it and they're like, ew, gross, what is that?
He would be screwed if you were one of them interns.
I'm not touching that.
You would have been like, oh, wipe, scrubbing that shit down.
Don't touch it. I got Lysol wipe. Nobody touch anything. And this is post 9/11.
Oh.
So I would have thought that security would have been a lot tighter. This is a year later.
Come on, NASA.
They trusted their interns. You make an assumption that everybody on the base has been vetted. Apparently not anymore.
Well, that's changing.
Yeah. After this whole situation goes down, NASA now requires the interns to have an ethics class. Weird.
There you go. Once he was able to punch in those correct 5 digits, Thad walked right into Dr. Everett Gibson's lab. This time, Tiffany waited outside the door. Thad reached on top of the safe and pulled down the safe combination paper he had seen Everett use. The only problem is that it wasn't the combination. It was a series of numbers to jog Everett's memory on the real combination. The way Thad saw it, there was only one option left. They would need to steal the entire safe. It was an option that he had planned for as a backup plan. Thad estimated that the safe weighed between 500 to 600 pounds, so he had brought his own dolly and borrowed the Jeep, which could handle the weight.
Tiffany and Thad got the safe onto the dolly and out onto the loading dock. Then the 3 of them had to lift the safe from the dolly and into the Jeep hatch. Tiffany curled up on the passenger floor to hide, and the safe was covered with a blue tarp. What Thad hadn't factored in was the weight of the safe in the Jeep hatch. At 600 pounds, the Jeep was squatting under the extra weight. Then they had the nerve-wracking drive back through the base with the stolen moon rocks in a squatting Jeep.
Once at the motel, Thad, Tiffany, and Shay lifted the safe from the Jeep, back onto the dolly, and then into the motel room. Tiffany increased the TV volume, and Thad set to work, sawing the door off the safe. They worked for 15-minute intervals, then paused to listen, but the motel was more or less deserted, and no one complained about the noise. Thad planned to saw through the 4 door pins, and it worked much faster than he expected.
Once the safe was open, Thad, Tiffany, and Shay found moon rocks from every Apollo mission from 1969 to 1972. This included the very first Apollo mission, moon rocks collected by Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon. Some of the samples in the safe were just moon dust, but others were actual rocks. The samples weighed 101 grams and were worth approximately $21 million. Tiffany used a notebook to document the samples, and then they were placed into a tackle box and luggage.
In the bottom drawer, they made an incredible discovery. The sample was labeled ALH 840001, and it outvalued all the others. The sample was a small rock from Mars. Everett had been researching a Mars meteor that had struck Antarctica and was removed from the ice in 1984. Now this valuable sample was in the hands of 3 thieves in a motel room.
During the theft and transportation of the safe, a sample bag had come open and leaked dust into the bottom of the safe. The sample was completely ruined, but Thad, he wasn't fazed. Instead, he most likely became the first person to ingest the moon by sticking his finger in the moon dust and licking it. Both Tiffany and Shay later reported that Thad only said it tasted salty. I am outraged. He ruined samples from 6 Apollo missions, then he licks the dust of a sample that he had ruined. It only gets worse for the moon rocks from here.
Maybe he wanted to be known as the first man to lick moon dust?
You can't tell anybody that.
Right, he wouldn't be recognized for it.
Oh yeah, Thad over there, he licked some moon dust.
Maybe, I don't know, the thought of a criminal. Why do I dive into it? Well, he's selling the moon rocks, so maybe he needed to sample one for himself. That's something that he can take away from this heist, right? That's something that he can keep. So he licked it.
I am speechless. Gnarly. They loaded the safe back into the Jeep and dropped it into a dumpster outside of Houston.
Impressive, well thought out plan there, guys. Let's just dump it in a dumpster.
Yep, the whole thing. Really well thought out, even bringing, the masks and the dolly with him, borrowing a Jeep. On the flip side, he's like, what do I do with the safe now? Dumpster.
This heist is a dumpster fire.
It's not as bad as the Santa Claus bank robbery that we're going to talk about later this month. That one is a hot mess express. This one, you can literally feel them being like, well, what do we do with the safe? Just put it in a dumpster. But it wasn't that easy, right? Like it still weighed 600 pounds.
Yeah, how did they hoist it up to place it in the dumpster? I guess there's some dumpsters that have, or maybe all dumpsters that have those like side doors.
Side doors.
Yeah.
But how many times did they move that safe?
A lot of times.
Then Thad drove back to the shopping plaza, miraculously found the same Buick, and swapped the license plate back from the one he had stolen.
Did this Buick guy even recognize, like, was this different days?
Yeah.
He was just driving his Buick around with a different...
No license plate. Thad took the Buick's plate, swapped it. He doesn't even leave the Jeep plate on that guy's car. Again, like, just sheer dumb luck. How frequently do you look at the rear end of your car to be like, yep, my license plate's there?
Or maybe he did, and he was just like itching his head, just staring at it. Well, gotta tell the wife.
And then you come out a couple of days later and you're like, well, my license plate's back. If that happens, you call the police because something like this happened to your license plate.
Somebody must have stole it because they wanted to do a
moon heist. That's clearly where your brain's going to go. It's a moon heist. Thad returned the Jeep. Then he, Tiffany, and Shay returned to JSC and tried to be normal for the next 5 days until they could meet up with Lynn Briley the following weekend.
It took less than 3 days for news to spread around campus that a 600-pound safe containing moon rocks had been stolen. Thad, Tiffany, and Shay spent the next several days pretending to be surprised at the news of the stolen rocks and laying low. On Friday, July 19, 2002, Thad and Tiffany drove 14 hours to Florida to meet Lynn. Shay remained in Texas for a scuba certification test, but Gordon had lied to his mother about needing an air ticket and hotel in Florida for an interview, so he would be joining them.
This is how Thad, Tiffany, and Gordon ended up sharing a Sheraton hotel room in Orlando, Florida. With an hour to spare before the meetup with Lynn, Gordon headed out to buy pizza, and Thad and Tiffany took advantage of some alone time. The date was Saturday, July 20th, 2002, the 33rd anniversary of Neil Armstrong's first step on the moon. Thad took out Neil Armstrong's Apollo 11 moonrock sample from the tackle box and placed them under the mattress cover. It was also the day Thad and Tiffany became the first people to have sex on the moon. Tiffany was in the shower when Thad put the rocks under the mattress cover, and she has never made a statement on if she knew if the rocks were there or not. Thad described it as uncomfortable. Yeah, I hope it was.
Yeah, because he was on the bottom.
How would you not know?
It depends on what position you're doing, right? I mean, I'm just going there.
I'm calling baloney. If these moon rocks were in the bed, she knew. There's no way.
How big are they? The size of your fist? Or are they pebbles?
Well, that's also up for some debate because initially Thad said they were rocks, like pebbles or bigger was the implication there. Later he said, maybe it was just more like some dust. Probably because every single person was like, oh my gosh, what?
Okay, then.
So we don't know. Even though he and Tiffany had only been together for a couple of weeks, Thad had given her the moon.
No. That does not qualify as the first people to have sex on the moon. Maybe the first people to have sex on moon rocks or moon dust, but not on the moon itself. Calm down there, pretty boy.
I don't know. First, he's licking the moon. Now he's having sex on the moon.
He must have like a fetish, like a moon fetish.
Yeah, he should be banned from being around the moon at all. From now on,
yeah,
not at all.
If there was a prison on the moon, he would request to be there.
So many people would.
After Thad and Tiffany's sexual moon escapades, Gordon returned with the pizza. He was high and making Thad pretty nervous. Thad planned to meet up with Lynn at the Italian restaurant that afternoon. He would arrive 10 minutes before Tiffany and Gordon to make sure it was safe. Once Tiffany and Gordon arrived, they sat at a separate table to watch the meeting between Lynn and Thad. Lynn was acting nervous, so Thad chattered away in an effort to help her calm down about the deal. Lynn said that her husband, Kurt, was waiting for her to call, so she stepped out of the noisy restaurant to call him. Of course, Lynn wasn't really Axel's sister-in-law, but FBI Special Agent Lynn Billings. She was also wearing a wire the entire time Thad had been chatting her up.
After Lynn's phone call, another undercover agent who would portray Kurt arrived bringing a briefcase containing $100,000. At a nod from Thad, Tiffany and Gordon also moved to the table with Lynn, Kurt, and Thad. Thad, Tiffany, and Gordon completely spilled the beans, telling Kurt and Lynn which hotel they were staying at, that they were students, and what they planned to do with the money. Thad also joked with Lynn saying, "I hope you're not wearing a wire," which was played back in court later. Whoops.
If I was Lynn, I would play around with Thad. And by that, I mean so Orb, is it? Is that your real name? Why did your parents name you that? I've never heard of that name, Orb.
Accidentally calls him Thad to see if he responds.
Thaddeus. This is why I should not be a private investigator.
No, we would fail.
I would definitely fail. You, however, would not. I would be on the sidelines. I'd like to be behind the scenes, and give you tips, but I could not be up front.
You'd have to sit there knowing that these people are
lying to you.
Yeah, they're lying to you. And make sure that you don't call him the wrong name. Guaranteed, 30 seconds in, I'm going to accidentally call him Thad. Whole thing's up. The nickname that I had for him the entire time I researched it, Thaddeus Orb, is going to come out of my mouth, and then the whole thing's up. They're running.
I would totally get into it, though. I'd play the part. I would dress the part. I would do everything in my power so that he would not know I am an FBI agent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it could be dangerous for them, right? You don't know if Thad has a gun or any one of them, and there's 3 of them and just 2 FBI agents. So there is some danger there for sure. Just Axel was, thinking, and his wife was thinking, whoa, what if these are bad people stealing moon rocks?
We just be there in our getup and you'd say Thad 30 seconds in, and I'll be like, gosh damn it.
Jigs up. Cover blown.
Sorry, Thad. I mean, Orb. As part of the arrangement when leaving the restaurant, Thad rode with Lynn and Kurt in their car. Tiffany and Gordon drove separately and planned to meet in the Sheraton lobby, where Lynn would give Thad the briefcase with $100,000 and he would give her the moon rocks. Except that Lynn and Kurt weren't really trying to buy moon rocks for their Belgian family. As soon as 2 cars pulled into the parking lot of the Sheraton Hotel, at least 30 FBI agents were waiting.
25-year-old Thad, 22-year-old Tiffany, and 26-year-old Gordon were handcuffed and taken into custody. Shay, who was 19 years old, would also be arrested from the JSC base.
I guess that scuba certification is worthless now.
For NASA operations. Yep.
There could be other operations.
Sure, she could be a scuba instructor. Be your own boss. She's only 19.
Flip that hair, girl. Flip it. Girl power. Let's go.
Thad, Tiffany, and Gordon were interviewed separately. Thad would see Tiffany just one last time in a holding cell. This was before Tiffany's parents posted bail and came to pick her up. Shay would also post bail and be released from jail pending the trial.
On Sunday, July 22nd, 2002, Katie received a collect phone call from Thad. He confessed to stealing moon rocks from NASA and attempting to sell them. That's a phone call you don't want to make. Calling your wife to tell her that you're in jail after stealing moon rocks with your mistress. Oh, and can you sign on my bond so I can get out of jail?
She had planned to visit Texas, not realizing that Thad was in Florida. Katie kept calling and calling, but she couldn't get a hold of him. Finally, Thad's roommate answered the phone and told Katie the truth, that Thad had moved in with another woman, Tiffany, who was another NASA intern. When Thad asked Katie to sign on a signature bond for his release, she hung up the phone and left him in jail. That is some girl power. Leave him, Katie.
Click.
Good luck with that, Thad. You know, by then, the whole story about sex on the moon had gotten out.
Oh, yeah.
She was like, there is no way I'm signing off to get you out.
There was no one else to sign for Thad's release. Tiffany was forbidden to have contact, and his family had already disowned him. So he sat in jail while his court-appointed attorney attempted to get him out without the signature bond. Like Thad, Gordon was also stuck in jail that July. Gordon had a prior warrant from Utah stemming from an incident where he tried to shoot his uncle with a metal-tipped arrow after an argument. It's very specific. Gordon also had a prior burglary conviction, and he tested positive for marijuana at the time of the arrest, based on one relative's comment that Gordon was known to
dream up get-rich-quick schemes.
It doesn't seem like they were impressed with him.
Dr. Everett Gibson had been vacationing in Australia when the heist occurred. When he returned to American soil, he was immediately taken in for questioning, since it was his lab and safe that was stolen. Everett was cleared pretty quickly when it became obvious that the only thing he was guilty of was taping a password reminder to the top of his safe. Everett was devastated. All of his research was gone, and useless because of the theft. This included several cloth-bound notebooks with Everett's research in them. Thad would say in court that the notebooks were not in the safe. However, Shay and Tiffany both testified that the notebooks were in the safe, but Thad had thrown them away. Either way, those notebooks had mysteriously disappeared.
Did anyone check the dumpster in Houston?
Would it have been at that cheap motel?
Mm-hmm.
The girls make it sound like he just completely discarded them. What was Everett's 30 years worth of research in those notebooks? He threw it out.
By the end of July, no adults could be found to sign off on the signature bail for Thad or Gordon, and the judge changed the bail to $25,000. Gordon was able to post bail and move to North Carolina with his mother, but Thad remained behind bars.
Apollo 17 astronaut Eugene Cernan from the 1972 moon mission had this to say about the moon heist.
I just don't understand where they were coming from and how they thought they were going to get away with selling moon rocks. It doesn't take a lot of courage. It takes a lot of stupidity to do what they did, quite frankly.
Thad advised his attorney that he coerced and misled Shay and Tiffany into taking part in the heist. He assumed the role of ringleader to help Shay and Tiffany get lesser possible sentences.
He probably did that so Tiffany would talk to him again. Guaranteed.
She would be like a lifeline outside of the prison for him.
It would really depend on the value the court experts determined of the moon rocks. But Thad, by assuming the role of ringleader, he was looking at anywhere from 3 to 30 years in federal prison. In 2002, Thad had refused to sign Katie's divorce papers for months, but he would eventually sign off, and the divorce was finalized in December. Katie, who had been told to lose weight and get a hobby by Thad, won in the end. She would meet her future husband at the gym.
The very same month, in December 2002, Tiffany, Thad, and Shay all pled guilty to their charges. Gordon did not plead guilty, and on April 8, 2003, a bench warrant was issued for his arrest when he didn't show up for federal court. Just days later, on April 11th, Gordon would be found in Utah. But with his arrest, he refused to identify himself. Instead, he said that his name was Job from the Bible. It would also take days for law enforcement to get Gordon to admit that he was, in fact, Gordon McWhorter. Gordon was then transported back to the Florida jail to await trial.
The trial for all 4 conspirators began on June 2, 2003. Tiffany testified that Gordon hadn't known about the moon rocks until he'd shown up at the Orlando Sheraton Hotel. The very next day, Thad testified the opposite and against Gordon. All 4 would be found guilty. A year after the heist, Tiffany was sentenced to 180 days of house arrest, 150 hours of community service, and 3 years of probation. Shay also received the same sentence. Both women were working to be astronauts, but with felony convictions, neither now qualifies to become an astronaut. They were also required to pay $9,167 to NASA for items lost or stolen during the heist.
Gordon received a harsher sentence due to his prior conviction, going on the run, and refusing to provide his name to law enforcement. He would be sentenced to 70 months for his role in brokering the sale of moon rocks. Gordon appealed, saying that he was not guilty, and his mother also made a statement saying that she thought Gordon had been duped by Thad. In some ways, I think Gordon really did get duped. He knew it was wrong to sell moon rocks, but he didn't know that Thad was interning at NASA. He probably thought Thad was just going to sell some fake moon rocks, right?
Yeah, and to think Gordon was high most of the time, or at least that's how I envision him in this story. It was just good entertainment to him, like he was just going to get pizza. He was high. He was, doing all that stuff.
Yeah, he's labeled as a stoner a lot of the time. I really just feel like Thad took advantage of him, like coming from being so strict Mormon. He saw somebody doing, illegal drugs and he was like, whoa, you're into the hard stuff. Like it was a whole different world for him. Gordon was also, ex-Mormon, but I think on a different level than Thad had been.
Gotcha.
Not pointing fingers at Gordon by any means. I just think that he got kind of spiraled into something that he didn't realize was so big to spend 70 months in prison.
Yeah. He also didn't think the moon landing was real.
That's my point. He was like, that dude's going to go over there and sell some sand to these, Pennsylvania people, and we're going to make $100,000. Like, did he think this through? Did any of them think it through?
No, but it was worth something to them, so.
$100,000 divided 4 ways. Or was Gordon still only going to get the $10,000? He did all that for $10,000.
I mean, in his eyes, that's probably a lot of marijuana.
That is. I mean, $10,000 is a lot of money for anything. Especially in 2002.
I need a new couch. Give me $10,000, I can get a new couch.
You get a new couch for like $2,000. What are you doing with the other 8?
I want a $10,000 couch page, okay? $10,000. I want it to wrap around my whole damn living room. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm pretty sure that Gordon did not even have a couch because he went to federal prison.
Yeah, poor guy.
Cookie did not crumble for that fancy couch.
Tiffany was now free, but she did not contact Thad, and he had no way of contacting her either. Thad spent 15 months in the county jail. He was the last one to be sentenced, and it started off with a bang. The court experts had finally determined the moon rocks to be worth between $7 to $20 million. The judge was also considering adding the 5K 2.7 enhancement on Thad's sentence. This enhancement was used for additional sentence time due to a crime that had shut down a branch of the U.S. government. It was usually reserved for terrorists, but in Thad's case, the judge seemed to think it would apply.
During the trial, Thad was also charged with the theft of the dinosaur fossils from Utah. Thad would be sentenced to 100 months, or just over 8 years, in a federal prison. Right after his transfer to the federal prison, Tiffany received permission from her probation officer to speak with Thad. They had a collect phone call, and Tiffany gave Thad her sister's address for letters to be mailed. He wrote to her every day, but never received a single response or another phone call. Then months later, every single letter was returned to Thad with the message, "Returned to sender, address no longer valid." It broke Thad's heart. He had relied on Tiffany as a lifeline to the outside world, but she had never read a single letter, and she never called Thad again.
Thad kept busy in prison, spending his time writing a 700-page thesis on his quantum space theory. He also taught an astronomy class for a prison adult education program and worked on his doctorate. In February 2005, Thad was serving his sentence in a minimum security prison in Colorado when he received a 10-month reduction in his sentence. The court had determined they had erred by giving him more time than was within guidelines.
On Monday, August 4th, 2008, with a little over 6 years served, Thad Roberts would be released from prison. He would be required to serve 3 years probation and complete 150 hours of community service.
Thad spent some time tutoring college students and wrote a book called Passages in 2019. He currently works as a theoretical physicist for a private think tank and a motivational speaker. In August 2010, Thad was the speaker at a TEDx Talks on visualizing 11 dimensions.
You can find this TEDx Talks on YouTube. It's only 15 minutes long. I'm going to tell you that I watched it twice, or I tried to watch it twice.
Brain rot, complete brain rot.
Thad is a very soft-spoken person, combined with the fact that he's talking about visualizing 11 dimensions, way over my head. And he keeps saying like, okay, you've got this. You understand this. We can move on. And I'm like, no, Thad, go back 3 steps. I didn't get any of it. I'm still way behind you. I tried, guys. It's out there on YouTube from August 2010. Give it a shot. I'm curious if anybody can make heads and tails of this. You're just a lot smarter than I am.
I need to look this up, but I'm not on his side, okay? But he did teach prison men, right? He had that class in prison for them. So maybe that's just how he hyped them up. Like, yeah, you guys got this.
You got this. You know what this is. I'm like, no, actually, I don't. Explain it to me like I'm 5, please, because holy moly, I don't have it. I get so sucked into the visuals on the screen and his soft, like the tone of his voice that I just can't get past it. I can't learn from him. It's like, wow, what are we talking about right now?
You can't visualize the 11 dimensions?
That's apparently what happened.
I'm sure I'm with you there. I'd probably get up and walk the first couple seconds.
As part of the research for this episode, I read the book Sex on the Moon by Ben Mezrich. I will say that the book takes some liberties and changes the actual names of people. If you're looking for 300 pages on Thad Roberts, then this book is for you.
The Theft of the Moon Rocks by Thad, Gordon, Tiffany, and Shay cost NASA, taxpayers, and Dr. Everett Gibson more than $7 million in lost research and productivity alone. This is in addition to the $21 million in stolen property. Axel Emmerman, remember him, became a national hero. Everett traveled to Belgium to give a lecture of Axel's Mineral Club and provided him with a plaque signed by an astronaut for his help in solving the heist. Let's go, Axel.
He's the bee's knees. Everett also petitioned the International Astronomical Union to rename asteroid 15513 to Emmerman in honor of Axel. Everett wrote to Axel,
"You will live forever in the heavens between Jupiter and Mars."
We would love for you to become part of the Corrupt crew. You can find us on Patreon with multiple tiers and PayPal. This will score you our appreciation and will announce your name in a future episode. Both links are in the episode notes. Case suggestions and feedback can be emailed to us at corruptpod@gmail.com.
The sources for this episode would be listed in the episode notes. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our new Corrupt content. Please also leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. Bye.
Bye.